Welcome, Spark. So what kind of Spark are you? Player? Creator? Or both? The stories yet to be told. The games to be made. Civilizations and societies to be formed. The universe is waiting for you to bring it to life. Now, how do we begin?
And welcome everyone to our next Tuesday education stream. You have SparkBrian here, one of your community engagement team members, and you just have me today because we're down to a pretty small crew. A lot of people have left for the holidays to be with their family, and so Zach's one of those who's left to be with his family for the next few days. I'm leaving tomorrow, but hope everyone's having great holidays already, and let's just get right into it. So during this Tuesday education stream, I am going to be tackling for you how to make an RPG in Project Spark. And there are a few different things that I want to go over here, a few different people who I've seen try to make some good RPGs, and one thing I see that I personally love about RPGs is one where you can have multiple party system. So I want to show you that first, how to make a party system where you're switching between a bunch of different players. So we're going to start out slow, but things are going to get complicated pretty fast. So the first thing I want to do is when we're going through some more complex things, I want to go to game settings and turn on show named objects to make it easy to track everything, because I'm going to be adding a lot of different objects in here throughout this tutorial, and it's just nice to be able to see the names of each of them. So I have 4 characters here. I have this set up so that I'm going to be showing you how to switch between 4 different characters. I have my warrior, my archer, my mage, and my tank. And for my mage, so since Seth just came out today, our newest champion, I'm going to go ahead and use some of his features. And those white streaks are actually looking pretty cool, I gotta say. But let's change that. So I really do like some of Seth's clothes here. I really like actually his upper level stuff is really cool, but my favorite is actually his mid-tier stuff. His mid-tier gloves and chest are pretty nifty. And then let's go ahead and give you his wand. Okay, so now I have my tank, I have my mage, I have my archer, I have my warrior. That's kind of the staple of most RPGs. So in each one of these 4, I have a completely blank brain. So when I'm working on a party system, basically I want to make a system where I can switch between my 4 characters, play as any one of them, and the other ones are non-players that then follow me around and then can attack on their own. So because 3 out of 4 times one of these guys is going to be a non-player, let's first put in their non-player brains, as in the brains that can interact with the world by themselves without player input. And to do that, I'm going to start with the brain gallery, because I love to take stuff from our brain gallery and start from there. And I'm going to choose the follower melee brain for my tank. For my mage, I'm going to go with the follower range brain. For the archer, I'm also going to go with my follower range brain. And I'm not making any changes. I'm just dropping these brains from the brain gallery right into the game. And then follower melee for my warrior. Okay, so each of these now is going to follow the player around and will attack enemies when they see it. So the problem is there is no player right now. So here is where we kind of take the next step into talking about how to actually toggle each of these between a player and not a player. So to do that, we're going to use logic cubes. So if you've never used a logic cube before, basically it's just a cube that most people use to store brains in them. They're not players, they're just stuff that stores brains in them. So behind each of these characters, I'm putting a logic cube behind them. And this logic cube is going to be what happens when the player is controlling them. So we're going to call this one player tank. I'm going to call this one player mage. We're going to call this one player archer. And we're going to call this one player warrior. Now these brains, the brains that are in these logic cubes, I want to have each of these be what happens to this character when you are controlling them. So for my tank, I'm going to go ahead, go into Brain Gallery, do a third-person adventurer brain, but I'm going to get rid of their ability to shoot. For my mage, I am going to, whoop, that's the wrong brain. I was wondering how long it would take me to make a simple little mistake. We'll see how many more I make throughout this stream. We're going to do the third-person shooter brain for my mage. And I'm just going to make a little tweak here, where instead of a boom camera, I'm going to do a follow camera. Just so, I want each of my players to have the same kind of cameras. Then we're going to do third-person shooter brain for my archer. And, we're also going to get rid of them equipping something because they've already equipped something. We're going to give her a follow brain as well. And then for our warrior, we are going to go ahead and put in a third-person adventure brain and get rid of shoot. So now one other thing I didn't do earlier, which I want to do, is my mage. The follower range brain, I want him to actually fire projectiles. So we're going to do shoot, then we're going to go to Brain Gallery, and we are going to make him, let's make him fire some of Seth's cool stuff. So we're going to do fire an arcane burst. And I think I have him at the beginning. Yeah, we don't want him to equip a bow. And then same with in here. We are going to have it so that instead of shooting crossbow bolts, and also right here I'm just making tweaks to stuff in the Brain Gallery. He's going to shoot Arcane Burst. And let's just see the top again. We don't want him to equip anything. Okay. So here's what I've done in the last few minutes. I have set up a brain for each of these guys when you're not controlling them. And then behind them in this logic cube is a brain for when you are controlling each of these guys. So, how do I actually make all this stuff work? We're going to use another logic cube. You're going to become friends with logic cubes the more stuff you do in Project Spark. And I will call this one Character Switcher, because we're going to use this to switch between characters. And I'm also going to change the color of this. I just like to change colors of my logic cubes to make it easier to track them. So I know this big red thing, that's how I'm going to switch between characters. All right, so let's go inside of here and let's start setting stuff up. 600 people watching and waiting for me to make a mistake. Oh, don't worry, that will be soon. Okay, so the very first thing that we want to do in here is actually set up the controls for how we're going to switch between our different players. So I want to make it so that when I hit up on the D-pad, then we're going to set up a number variable called party member. And every time up is hit on the D-pad, the party member number increases by 1. And when I do down on the D-pad, I'm going to decrease my party member number by 1. And this is a lot of setup, but in just a few minutes, I'm going to get into the point where you're actually going to be seeing character switching in action. This is all just how to set it up. And for those of you just joining, Project Spark is basically a tool that you can use to make any sort of game or any sort of experience that you want to make. And it has really powerful tools known as code. And that's what I'm doing right here. I am having a lot of fun with code. So I'm setting up basically at the very beginning, I'm starting out with my first party member. So here's what I'm doing. I'm going to do Warrior's party member number 1, my Archer's party member number 2, Mage is number 3, Tank is number 4. And so when I'm hitting up on the D-pad, I want to cycle between my party members, and down the D-pad I want to cycle between my party members. So I also just want to add in a little thing here where when you want to loop things around, right? So when you're at 1, when you hit downwards, you want to go back to party member number 4. So let's just to quickly do that, basically I'm looping stuff around so that when you're at 0, you go back up to 4, and same as when you're on player number 4, when you hit up, you want to go back to player number 1. So that does that. So let's talk about how to now switch your players, switch their brains. So I said earlier that my warrior is party member number 1. So when my party member equals number 1, then I'm actually going to basically say we have this thing called the global player, and that's going to be equal to my warrior. And this is basically saying when my party member is number 1, the player is going to be playing as the warrior. When my party member is equal to 2, my player is going to be playing as an archer. When my party member is number 3, I'm going to be playing as a mage. And when my party member is 4, then I'm going to be playing as a tank. Now the crucial thing, the crucial step, is actually making those brains we set earlier do something. So we want to add in a new line. We want to make it run basically only as soon as your player is now number 1. Then we want to do this new thing called, let's get over to it, a push brain. All right, so here's how I like to think about brains. A brain is a stack of blocks on top of each other. And what happens when you're pushing a brain is you're dropping a new block on top of a bunch of other blocks. So previously, we had here their initial brain, which is set right here, is kind of like block number 1. Then when we push a brain onto them, we're dropping a second block on top of that. And it's only going to run, when you're pushing a brain, it's only going to run the brain that's at the very top of the block. So why is this important? Because this allows you to basically change a person's brain, change this character's entire brain, change everything they're doing. And we're using that to make it so that it's pushing away their brain that controls themselves and putting your player controls into them. But some of you might see the issue here where, well, let's jump into test mode so you can see the issue. All right, so I have all my characters here. But now, you'll notice, let's switch between them. They're all moving at the same time. And that's because, and I keep on adding more health bars. So that's because these guys aren't forgetting their player brains, and they're not remembering that they should be followers again. So, there's one last crucial step in here. We want to do when my party member has changed, when its number has changed, then we're going to take global player here. And we are going to use this command called popBrian. So the reason why earlier I gave the idea of brains as being stacks of blocks on top of each other is when you use popBrian, whatever brain is at the very top, it's like someone kicks it off. It's like a little kid goes over to a bunch of blocks and kicks off the very top one. So whatever brain was running has now been kicked off. So in this instance, that would be the player control brains would be kicked off of your player. So this basically makes it so that once someone's no longer, or once the party member is changed, then the last guy who is your player, it will kick off their brain. So now you'll see that I'm switching between my 4 characters, and nothing, and they're correctly switching. Now another quick thing that this is mistake number 2, if you're keeping track, is with these brains, these player brains, a very important thing is I didn't set these as templates. So all these guys need to be templates so that these logic cubes actually don't think they're players and try and run in the world. They're just there to store information for you to use as you see fit. And now another thing I'm going to do is I am going to remove displaying the player's health meter when you're switching between them. And I'll show you why. Let's get to the last one. All right, jump into test mode again. And now you'll see that I'm correctly switching. So I'm hitting up and down on the D-pad, correctly switching between my 4 different party members. So I already have kind of the basis of the start of an RPG, right? All right, so now what do I want to do? Now what I want to do is I want to actually go ahead and create some UI. I want to create health meters on the left-hand side that show the health of all of my different players so that I can kind of track it in-game. So to do that, we're going to use another logic cube, and we are going to say, we're going to call this one health UI, because it's user interface health that we're setting here. I'm just going to make the color green because, I don't know, green sounds healthy to me, I guess. And then we're going to do something pretty simple where we're going to do display meters, and these display meters, they are going to display the health of our 4 different characters. So we're going to display his health, and the maximum of that meter is going to be his maximum health. And we are going to show that at screen location top left. So let's just copy this 4 times because we want to show all 4 of our characters' health. So we'll change this to the second meter will be showing the archer's health. The third meter will be showing the mage's health. And the fourth meter will be showing the tank's health. So now I jump in again. When you're playing around with Project Spark, you're going to be jumping in between test mode a lot. So now you see you got 4 different health meters showing on the left-hand side of your screen. But we're not done yet because those health meters don't mean anything to you. You don't know who's that's meant to be. All right, so here's something that probably most of you don't know about Project Spark. I have seen people use it, and they've had a lot of fun using it, is saving pictures of characters. We want to go over to our multi-edit tool, and we want to select our character. when you hold down the left bumper, you can choose to save this character as an assembly. Why is that important? Because you can select a screenshot to save of them. Oops. We want to get nice and close to our tank here. Very close on him. Save that. And now we want to name this tank. And save that. Now we want to, it's sort of like we're bringing everyone in front of the picture booth. We want to bring our mage in front of the picture booth now. Let's move our tank out of the way. Sort of like they're all getting their school year pictures. We want to do the same thing with him. Let's take a screenshot. Right, nice and close. We want to call this one mage. Let's save that. All right, let's bring our mage back out of the way. Let's do some photo ops with our archer here. That close up. I know, right? So close. All right, we want to first name this. We're going to name this one Archer. And let's go ahead and save it. Yeah, there's no personal space with picture taking. Okay, now we want to do screenshot of our fighter. Let's get a nice hero shot of him. So you can also have them doing emotes. You know, have them celebrating or doing fun, cool things. I'm just doing boring shots straight up of them. So let's do our warrior. Let's save him. And all that was just for picture time. All right, picture time is over. We're going to put all of you back in your places. Hope you enjoyed your fun pictures. So why did I just do all that? Why did I spend all of that time taking pictures of our 4 characters? Because we can call that on UI. And so that's what I want to do now. Let's do display. Now we go over to our gallery picker. And we go over to assemblies. So I had my warrior, so we want to go all the way to W's. All right, look at that. We have our warrior. So we're going to display the picture that I just took. We are going to set it at a scale of 15% or 0.15. I just knew that from testing around a bit. And we are going to set it at a screen position of our choosing. This is where we get to use some vector variables. Sounds scary, but it's really not. All right, we're going to call this one the warrior vector variable. So anyone who's taken a math class with graphs, you remember that things were on an x-plane and a y-plane. You know, things that were going left to right, that was the x-plane. Things going up and down, that was the y-plane. That's all we use to show what is, for what's being shown on your screen. We're just using x variables and y variables. And the very bottom of your screen, that would be -1y. Very top of your screen, that would be 1y. The very left of your screen, that would be -1x. And the very right of your screen, that would be 1x. So you have this space to play in and put your stuff in that's between -1 and 1. And so let's go ahead and set what those are. So I'm going to pin this variable. That basically means I can set this variable right here. I know from my testing that -9x is a nice place to put the pictures. And for the first one, I know that putting it at 0.8 is good also. So I'm going to breeze through this because I'm basically just setting for each of my different characters just where they're going to display on the screen. And this I got to from a bit of testing. I got my archer. She is number 2. I have my mage was number 3. So let's find that mage. And then last but not least, I have my tank. All right, there's my tank. And we want to set actually a different vector variable for each one of these guys. So this one's going to be Archer. We're going to pin that variable, and we are going to set her to. So we want everything to be on the same horizontally aligned. So that means their x variables or the x vectors are going to be the same. The y vectors, that's the only thing that's changing between them because we want one to appear higher than the other. Now we got our mage. Sorry about that. I was losing my voice, and that would not be a good thing when you're going through a complex tutorial like this, right? So, and all this stuff, you're like, how does he know that those are the right variables? I did some testing, and that's how I know. So it's a bit of cheating. And then we have our tank. That's the last one. And we're going to set that. And we are going to have that one set at 0.05. All right. All of that code, what did that do? Go here into test. And now you see next to each of our health bars, we have the character that it counts as. Okay, so now the cool part that probably most of you don't know about. All right, so in here, I set party members. Actually, I want to change those to global party members. That means global means that basically everything in the world uses this party member number. All right, and my last one. Okay, cool. So here's the cool thing. I'm going to make it so that when you have someone selected, their picture is in color and everyone else's picture is grayed out. That's actually pretty simple code because all you need to do is you set when the player number, the party member number, which I set in my other brain, is basically equal to one of these guys, then they are going to show like normal. So my archer was global party member number 2. My mage was party member number 3. My tank was party member number 4. So when your global party member is equal to each of these guys, like normal, when your party member number is not equal to one of these guys, we're going to bring in this else, and this basically says when it's not equal to 1. Then we are going to still display this guy with one tiny little tweak. We're just going to simply set color gray. And all that does is that just makes them grayscale. And that's the great thing about a lot of stuff in Project Spark is there's a lot of shortcuts. Like a lot of things that would take a lot more lines of code in any other platform. And you can do it in just one in Project Spark. So now I'm just setting for each one of these basically when it's not equal to their party member number, then their picture is going to be grayed out. And it's going to be at the same position. Okay, going to test. Look at that. We have his picture all nice and colorful and everyone else's picture nice and grayed out. We go to the next person, their picture suddenly all nice and colorful. And we go to the next person, their picture's all nice and colorful, and so on and so forth. So just like that, we have a nice looking selection screen. We're switching between players properly, except for this guy. He's For some reason, he's causing me problems. Seems like when I switch there. I'll need to look into that. Debugging. But we have some nice selection going on. So I did all that. I've spent the last 30 minutes going through just how to switch between your characters and how to make it look all pretty and nice. But I haven't done anything about leveling, the key part of any RPG in Project Spark. Well, not just in Project Spark, but any RPG. It's not just like our Project Spark RPGs that uses leveling. So let's go ahead and let's build our leveling brain. I'm going to color this blue. I don't know. Blue seems like you want to level up. I don't know. I just like the color blue. There's no reason for this. Let's call this leveler. And so in any leveling system, any game you're building leveling in, what are the two key things? You have XP, and once you reach a certain amount of XP, you go up to the next level. So those are what you're checking for. How much XP you have, when it gets enough to be the next level. So you have to set 3 numbers. You have to set how much XP you have. You have to set what the XP is you need to get to reach the next level. And you actually have to set your level number. So let's go ahead and set each one of these. So the very first thing we do is I created this number variable XP. And when you start the game, your XP is equal to 0. You don't have any XP. Then, I think when you're at level 1, you have to get 100 XP to get up to level 2. That seems like a nice round number. So I created this number variable called XP to level. And initially, you're going to have to get... You're going to have to get 100 XP to get to the next level. Also, when you start, your level is going to be level number 1. So I set a number variable level, and then I'm making that equal to 1. So this is just setting how your game starts. You now have all these numbers that you are going to use to make your own RPG. So how do you check to see if once your XP gets to basically the XP needed to level up? Well, you use some pretty simple math. And you're going to use a nice comparison. And actually, we're going to make this global because we're going to use XP is going to be a system we use all throughout the game. So you're going to simply look for when the amount of XP you have is greater than the XP you need to level up. And we're going to do when it has started to do that because you only want to check kind of one time as soon as it started to happen. Then we are going to set that your level, that will increase by 1. So already that simple thing is now doing a leveling up of when you get to a certain amount of XP. So now we want to have a bunch of different things happen when you actually level up. So now we're now going to look at when my level has increased. There's some certain things that are going to happen. First, we're going to set back our XP down to 0. So in order to do that, it's not going to actually be 0 because, say for instance, so you need 100 XP to get to the next level. Say you kill an enemy, brings you up to 120 XP. So you want to start out the next level with 20 XP to get there. So we're actually going to do my global XP number. I'm going to decrease that by the amount of XP it took me to get to that level. And that just brings you down to a nice number that you wanted to get to. Then I'm going to do, so a crucial thing about RPGs is as you level up, every new level you get, it takes more XP to get to the next level. You have this sort of exponential increase. So we're also going to do when my level's increased, then we're going to do a tiny bit more math. that the amount of XP I need to level up, that increases by the same amount of XP that I currently have that it takes to level up, but I'm going to multiply that by, let's do 1.5. So I'm multiplying it by itself, and then, or I'm increasing by itself and multiplying it, because that leads to kind of an exponential curve of an exponential increase. And so this will basically make it so that at level 2, it will take 250 XP to get me to level 3. So, all right, I have XP working, but what actually happens to my players? So, I haven't set who my players are and who my levelers are. So I'm going to use this thing called an object set. An object set basically, I think I actually already set this. Yeah, levelers. An object set basically stores a bunch of different objects in there and allows you to call that and do different things with that. So I'm going to set my levelers as an object set, and I'm going to add to it my 4 different players. So we're going to add the warrior. We are going to add also my archer. And I know I'm going kind of fast. So for all those who may have missed the beginning of this is also going to go up on YouTube. It's something that you probably have to digest, watch how I did all this, because there is so much I'm covering in, I'm probably going to go a bit over an hour, but there's a lot I'm covering. So I want to make sure I get to it all, but I know that for some of you people who are just getting started, this is might be a bit of an overwhelming introduction to code, but it's really not if you start from minute 1 of where I started. Okay, so now I have set that this object set levelers is now going to include my 4 players. I want, when I level up, they all level up and things happen to all of them. So what I'm going to do here is now I can call each of these guys. So now I can say each of you guys, what we call for each of. Each of you is going to do certain things. So 2 simple things that I'm going to cover here is how to increase someone's maximum health every level, and also increase the amount of damage that they do per level. So I'm going to set that each of those things, its maximum health, which I find under combat properties, and then health and defense. I'm going to do a tiny bit more math here, because I also wanted to have sort of an exponential increase with each level. So we are going to increase it by its max health, multiplied by 0.5. So what that means is if you have a character with 100 health at level 1, at level 2, he's going to now have 150 health. And you can play around with that number, get it to somewhere you like it. And then we are also going to we're going to set a new thing that I haven't talked about at all, which is its damage. And we're just going to simply say that we're going to increase its damage by, let's say, 5. So every time you level up, the amount of damage you do increases by 5. So I now already have it so that all my guys' levels increase. Oh, and another thing I want to do is I want to make it so that when their levels increase, their health is healed. It's sort of a nice thing with a lot of games. As soon as you hit the next level, then your health goes back up to 100%. So I'm just going to simply say that all of your characters' health is going to be equal to their maximum health. So the current health is going to be equal to their maximum health. Yeah, and by the way, I just saw, sorry, I'm not as diligently reading chat because I'm deep into this, but I did see asking about multiplying something by 0.5. So what I'm doing is I'm actually saying that my max health is already 100, and I'm increasing it by itself times 0.5. So in this case, I'm increasing it by, it's basically what your health is already increased by the new number. So it's when it's multiplied by 0.5, it cuts it in half. So this makes it so his max health is 100 plus 50. And yeah, so it ends up being multiplied by 1.5 basically. So this is just sort of more of a roundabout way to get to it, but it's just a easy way to add health to health and then decrease like that. Llama riding Obama. Hey, you can make anything in Project Spark. I know one user, Ninichu, who's here, has made quite a few llamas in Project Spark. She actually made a space llama, a 2-bit or a pixel art space llama is her most recent creation. So sure, you can make that. Okay, where was I? So I need to set for each of my levelers that the amount of damage they do to characters. So I'm just going to set that when my characters are all at level 1, the amount of damage that they can do is going to be, we'll say they can do 5 damage. Sounds about right. If you wanted to change it, you would just simply, like if you want it separate for each of your characters, you would just simply say, my warrior's damage, that one might be instead, let's say 6, and my archer might be 5, and so on and so forth. But I'm just going to set across the board, each of these guys does 5 damage. But damage doesn't mean anything yet because it has no context. Everything needs context, Project Spark. That's the super important thing. So here's the part where I go through a lot of the code, and I just say that when I'm attacking, so every line you're doing where you're attacking, you have to set now that it attacks with a certain amount of damage, and it's that damage number that I'm setting. So this will just take a bit of time as I go through sort of everywhere that I've set that I'm attacking and set how much damage it's doing. And I think this was lower down here. Yep. So yeah, Project Spark is something where you have controls over, I mean, so many things. I'm creating from scratch. Within the past 40 minutes, I've created from scratch a leveling system. I've created also a party selection system. Something like this would have taken me in kind of any other software, I don't know, hours to do. But there's kind of an ease of use with code that really makes it great. Coming from the guy who's paid to tell you that. But no, seriously, it's there's a lot of benefit to code, a lot of shortcuts it takes to make your life easier and to make you be able to do fun stuff faster and build games a lot faster. Okay, so while I was talking, I basically set the damage multiplier in all of my enemies. Or not my enemies, my players. But I have no enemies. There are 0 enemies in this map. There's just my players. So let's make some level 1 goblins. And now I'm going to show you the power of setting these guys as templates also. So when something is set as a template, so I have this goblin, he's now a template. You go into test, and the goblin's not in the world. He's hidden from the world. But I can call him into my game. So I'm going to do that through a logic cube. I'm just going to simply, one time, have this logic cube create a goblin, and then it's going to destroy itself. This is just also to help with my prop count by it destroying itself. So this goblin, I'm going to call it Goblin Level 1. He's going to be a pretty lowly goblin. And the only thing you need to do now in every single one of your enemies in order to make your XP system work, and this is why templates is easier because you then have less enemies to put this in, is simply say, nope, I don't want to do that. Hey, mistake number 3 out of 46 minutes. Pretty good, gotta say. Okay, so what I want to actually do is once this guy dies, so once he's dead, then I'm going to set my global XP and I'm going to increase that by, let's say, 20. So now the nice thing is I can have a level 2 goblin. Let's make him a bit bigger. Let's make him also look a bit different. So let's give him that Carlsnor head. Let's give him mop hair. Oh, look how nice he looks. Look how nice and friendly he is. That's a beautiful, beautiful specimen. And now let's make his health a bit higher. So his health, instead of 30, let's make it 60. Takes a bit longer to take care of him. And inside of him, he's going to give you 50 XP when you kill him. All right, so this logic cube is for my level 1 goblins, so we're going to create a few of those right around here. Now let's bring this over here, and this is where my level 2 goblins are going to be. And we're just going to have changes to create goblin level 2. I should have called this goblin level 2. So further on down the pathway, you might run into some higher level goblins you have to dispatch. Now the last thing is I want to show how I'm doing with my leveling. So I just simply add in here that I am going to display, and this is back in my UI brain. So we're going to do display meter. We're going to change it to be the resources meter. We are going to, what's it going to display? So it's going to have as the base number global XP, and the maximum number, or the top of that thing, is going to be the XP to level. And we are going to set its position to be at screen top center. And I'm going to make it yellow because I feel like yellow is usually used to show experience. So yeah. So let's go ahead and let's test this whole thing. Let's see what I did. So let's switch to my, no, I want to switch to my archer actually. So I got my archer here. She is just mowing them down. And oh, so I've gone to next level, but that didn't look too impressive. Yeah, I grew a level, but you didn't see anything about it. There wasn't any kind of specialty to it. And I just grew to level 3. So a nice little thing I like to add in is when all my guys grow level, you have some sort of visual indicator. Just makes it look a bit nicer. So we're going to just set back in my UI brain, for each of all my levelers, they are going to play an effect. And the effect they're going to play is maybe Arcane Explosion. I really like the new Ceph stuff, so I'm going to do Arcane Explosion at all of their positions. And just looking at something with my tank, because I've noticed my tank seems to have some sort of issue with him. So I'm just debugging while live, you know how it goes. Okay, well I won't worry about it. There's like a small thing that I noticed with him, but everything seems to be working 99% right. Alright, so I'm plowing through all my goblins, and then when I level up, then bam, you get that cool little effect that plays. Kind of helps show you that you have indeed leveled up. Any kind of visual indicators to show your players that things are actually happening in the game is just helps. And now these guys are all level 3. So just like that, you have, I mean, these are the basics of an RPG. You have a system for switching between 4 party members. You can make it as many as you want. If you've ever wanted to, I don't know about you, but whenever I played an RPG, I've always thought, man, wouldn't it be so cool if instead of having to select down to 4 players from all my players, if I could just have them all follow me and have like 12-player RPGs? You can make that. I just made this 4 players just to make it kind of easier for you. But these are all the steps that you need to to make whatever game you want to in Project Spark. And the nice thing is, because I'm using the follower brain, for the most part, these guys are following me. So, I got through all that in 50 minutes. Gotta say, sort of can't believe I got it through it that fast. But I probably did it a bit too fast for some people to follow everything. So, let's make things run a bit better now. So, just to show you kind of the diversity of all these players, what I've said in all of them is the basics of sort of how their health increases, how their damage increases. But what does that actually look like? So first, I just want to display something over all my players. And I want to use that object set again. So I'm going to display two things over them. I'm going to first display their maximum health, just so you can see kind of how their health and attack increases. And I'm going to display them all above them. I'm also going to display their damage amount above them. And damage I can find right here. And now I want to actually make it so that these guys are no longer all causing the same amount of damage. So I want my warrior to be a bit more powerful. So maybe he has a damage of, let's say, let's give him a damage of 8. He's going to be kind of our attacker. The tank is going to do less damage because he's going to be, he's going to be the guy that takes all the beating and can stick with it. So his damage, we're going to make that 5. Then we have my archer. She's going to shoot from afar, so we probably want her damage to actually be even lower. And then my mage, I feel like he's going to be the weakest of my team. So to make up for it, he's got to have higher damage that he can do. So let's make his damage 6. So right there I've set all their damages start out differently. Now I can also make it so their damage increases by its own damage. So again, it's a way to do it exponentially. So its damage increases by its damage. Multiplied by, let's do 0.75. So if someone has a damage of 100, then that means their damage is going to increase by 75. Okay, so now I'm displaying their health and damage above them. That's good, that's good. Now I can set all their health to be different. So let's go into the tank. You go to Properties, Combat, Health and Defense. The tank, all right, he has 200 health. That's a good amount of health for a tank. Mages are always usually the weakest guys. They're the guys you keep in the back. So the mage we're gonna make have 70 health. Archers usually have less health too, because they kind of stick back. We're gonna give her 80 health. And then my warrior, we are going to give him, all right, 100 health is good. Let's jump back into test mode. And why aren't they displaying their stuff? Why aren't they doing what I told them to? I think this is mistake number 4, for those of you keeping track. So for each of the levelers, oh right, I haven't said where it's displaying. It's displaying above it. Here we go. All right, so also, just one thing I gotta do. So in your default follower brains, you have this thing where after all those guys say I'm here to help, well, you know they're here to help. because they're part of your party. So I'm just going to get rid of that line so they no longer say I'm here to help. So we want to do that in all of these characters. Okay, now they're no longer going to say I'm here to help. Alrighty. So I have above each of my guys how much health they have, how much damage they do. So let's have the goblins attack me. Okay, so I've gone up. So now you'll see my warrior can do 14 damage now, has 150 health. My tank does 8.75 damage. Yeah, you can do percentage damages. Or decimal place damages. He now has 300 health, though, so he's a super tank now. Then I have my archer. She now has 120 health, can do 7 damage. So these are all things that you can tweak around and get it to a place where you are happy with it. Now I've gone up again. She now has 180 health, can do 12.25 damage. So clearly I'm leveling a lot faster than you should in a game. If I added level 3 characters, then I would wreck them. And now the last thing I want to show you is just to make this run kind of at the 100% instead of the 99%. You'll notice right now these two guys aren't following me. That's because they don't know who their leader is. So the very last thing I want to do, and I think that will call it once I'm done that, is I want all these guys to know what I've set in the character switcher, the global player I've set here, and the global player is who you're playing as. They all need to know that whoever the global player is, that's the person they should follow. So they should follow them around until they're too close to enemies and attack them. So I want to just change around their brains so that right here, line number 3 of a follower brain is basically looking for any ally within 5 meters of them. So that's pretty close. Instead, I want them to look for the nearest object that is a global player. And it's only going to be the one object. And then that's what their leader is going to be equal to. It's going to be equal to that. So just like that, I have now made it so it's looking for whoever you're setting as a global player, that's their leader, and that's the guy they are going to follow. So I'm just setting that in all of them. I'm going through them all very fast, but I just wanted to set this in all of them. And bam. And now the last thing that I want to do is I want to make this look a bit pretty. So I have kind of a bit of a vapid scenario here, but let's make some, let's make a mountain in the background. You might notice it's looking a tiny bit U-shaped. And then, so like really important thing about when you're building your games is paths. Like just visually showing paths. Like so here I'm using it by, I use some dirt terrain. A game without paths means a player who is a bit more confused. So the more you can kind of make paths, and also I'm making sort of the terrain that isn't on the paths a bit sloped, so you're also more likely going to stick on the path itself. Simple visual cues like that are what kind of helps really bring a game together. And let's maybe have it so that right here, let's make this a bit bigger. So I'm going to use my brush tool. We're going to make this more of a, this a bit bigger. We're going to put like a little layer in here. I think the wolf den is pretty good. Oh right, I don't have the wolf den on this account. So let's go ahead and get it. Alrighty. So this will be like a pretty fearsome final boss. Let's make it a super big goblin. So, oh no, I've hidden my goblin under that terrain I just built. They are stuck underneath the terrain. Alrighty. Let's bring these guys up out of there. Here you go. You are now on safe land. And now let's bring you onto safe land. Okay. So let's make a final huge goblin. I'm going to make this guy not a template because you only have one boss in a game. You shouldn't, hopefully you're not building bosses that are the exact same. So we're going to turn his template to off. We're going to make him huge. That's pretty big. Let's change his look also. Let's give him some different clothing. Let's make him look a bit more intimidating. Give him kind of a back scavenger thing there. Karlsnor's different items. Okay, let's change his look a tiny bit. That guy's looking like he's gonna mess you up. Okay. Let's also just change it so that maybe he has like 200 health. 250. And maybe when you attack him, he does not react. He just keeps on trucking. Okay, and then we are just going to change it so that when you beat him, he's going to give you a whole 500 XP. Alrighty, so one last test. Let's run through this whole thing. So again, I'm just displaying the numbers over my character so I can kind of track their health and everything. And let's use my mage. He's just plowing through the goblins. It's not even fair. So like, you know, for instance, as you're playtesting, you'll probably need to say, well, I need to probably balance this more. It's a bit easy. Because I'm already up to level 3. Alright, so I'm attacking this goblin. Takes a while to bring him down, but bam, brings him down and almost brings me up to level 3. And I think I'll call that to an end. Oh, except for we lost our good old tank. Well, that is for another day. Figuring out what happened to our tank and why he didn't follow us. But it's a small little thing. So I hope you learned from this how quickly you can make a robust game, especially how quickly you can make an RPG. I really hope for people who are playing Project Spark who really want to make RPGs, you follow along with this, help use this to set up how you want to make a leveling system. This isn't the only way how you have to make it. That's the great thing about Project Spark is there are infinite ways to get to any problem you need to get to. And so this is just one of those ways. This is the way that I find kind of the quickest to do. And just like that, you know, you have the beginnings of whatever epic RPG you are thinking about making in Project Spark. So anyways, for those who didn't catch the whole thing, as things got from easy to pretty hard quickly on, this is going to be put up on YouTube so you can all digest it later on. It's we're looking at putting it up today or tomorrow on YouTube for people who've missed it. And if you're watching this on YouTube, it's already up, so you're welcome. And for those of our community members who follow along with our streaming, we will not be streaming the rest of the week. We are obviously out on Thursday, and also both Zach and I will be out Friday during our usual time when we're playing community content. So come see us in the forums. Go to projectspark.com. There's an awesome online community, project-spark.org, where they have a live chat that can answer all your questions. And I really hope you guys saw some cool things here, and I can't wait to see what you all make. And everyone who entered the Game Jam, by the way, your levels are so cool. There's some really amazing levels that came out of there. Some things where you look at this, and it does not look like Project Spark. It looks like something that you built in, I don't know, so you built from scratch. So it's amazing what people are making. So thanks, everyone, and we will catch you next week for a bunch of new streams.